Hey guys, how are you? It's Bert Burger here, Sunova Surfboards, and today we're going to have a little bit of a talk about fins. Right, so why is Bert talking about fins? All right, well it turns out a long time ago, no, look, literally my first job in the surfboard industry, legitimately getting paid, I think 1983, Town and Country Surfboards, and I was their fin maker. And then later on I moved and I worked with Santosha and I was their fin maker. And the really cool part about working with Santosha is that I got to work at the time with a lot of the world's best shapers. So you had Mark Richards, you had Rusty, who else was there? There was Jim Banks, and then there was the West Australian shapers, Cole Adams and Al Bean, Mick Manolis, Mick Button. I think we had the Hawaiian Island Creations. There was even McCoy. So I literally had to make the fins for about 12 different shapers, and every shaper had their own template and their own thing that they wanted in a fin. You know, some guys wanted the leading edge round, some guys wanted the leading edge sharp, other guys wanted the tip real thick, other guys wanted the trailing edge super thin. You know, some guys wanted a pointy tip or a round tip, and so it was like, all right, I had to try and make sense of that. So physically I'm doing the work, right? I'm pumping the fins out every day, but then I'm constantly involved in these conversations with shapers, why they want things a certain way. So eventually I just get out there and I start using the fins of all the different shapers, and I'm going, yeah, I like this one, I don't like that one, or I like this one, or I like both of these. So eventually, I think it was probably around the late 80s, come up with a template, which is basically like that one there, okay? Stock, standard, generic template. Now I found with all the different fins I was using, you know, you go a bit upright, funky things happen. You go a bit too far tilted back, funky things happen. You go too much tip area, it feels a bit funny. You reduce the tip area, feels a bit funny. So what I found is this template here, as far as middle of the road, middle of the range, super generic, and it basically just works in everything, and it's a good practical fin. So literally, I've been using this fin now like almost 40 years, and yeah, so okay, so you see now, so I got a long track history making fins, designing fins, and so on. Now what we have here in our longboard center fins, we go from a 5-inch fin, all right, which is our smallest box fin, which ends up still being roughly about the same size as our largest thruster fin. So what that means is you have the option to either use the FCS box adapter with the large thruster fin or the smallest box fin. So where we're going with fins now, so look, really one thing is the size of the fin, or sorry, the shape of the fin, the template. So as I said, everything we got here is very generic, very middle of the road. It's not going to do anything overreact or do anything crazy. You know, it's going to feel very neutral. So then we have a fin that's just designed for everything. Then those fins have to come in the size for the person, and then there's going to be different styles of fins as well. So just to say, maybe we just look at single fins just for a moment and just pretend there's only one fin in a board. Well, I don't think many people would ride much smaller than a 6-inch single fin. I mean, maybe a small kid, small person, small single fin, but a lot of times, you know, you may see, like say, up to, I just want to include the base here, it's a bit deceptive because you don't see it, but I guess that would be a typical size fin that you might see in in an all-round surfer's shortboard, average size guy, right? And then you go up to your bigger fins. So now we've got the 8-inch fin, the 9-inch fin, and me, I'm right at the large end of the scale. So I actually ride the 10-inch fin in my big logs. Now it's really interesting. I had a circumstance just recently where I normally ride the 9-inch fin, and I'm fine with the 9-inch fin. Now just recently I went up to a bigger board, and I went from like a 10-foot log up to an 11-foot log. Put the same size 9-inch fin in, and all of a sudden, when I'm in real small waves and I've got a little bit of whitewater at my feet and I'm trying to cut across the whitewater's hitting my board, and next minute my whole board's just going sideways, and I'm like, what the? And I'm riding exactly the same size fin, and I'm scratching my head, and then I realised, you know what, the only difference is my board's a foot bigger. I went a little bit thicker in the rail, and now my old board with a nice fine rail, it would just slice through the whitewater and keep cutting across. But the new board that's bigger, the wave exerts a bit more force on it, and the fin's just not big enough to do the job. So I literally had to switch up to a 10-inch fin because I'd changed my board. Okay. Now, so yeah, look, different size fins for different size riders, and then you've got the application, right? There's really a lot to talk about here. It's going to be interesting to break this down. All right, so we go from 6-inch to 10-inch. We have the two different styles, so I'll stay on the center fins for a minute. We have the two different styles in that we have I mean, we call it an orca and a mako just for the names of it, but essentially it's just like a standard template and then a cutaway. So these fins are actually the same size in that they're both 8-inch, and then you see there, you basically got that cutaway, right? So then your question might be, well, what does the cutaway do? All right. The deeper you go in your fin in the water, right, especially if you're on a longboard, and it's a longboard and you want to walk the board, right? As you walk the board sort of tilts a little bit, okay? Now, if the fin's nice and deep in the water, right, where's my hand? Okay, there's the board, there's the fin. Okay, as you walk, board tilts a bit, fin has to wobble. But as it wobbles, if it's real deep, okay, it's got to cover a lot of ground right down there. But if it's super shallow and it's wobbling, it's not covering as much ground. So a deeper fin is just way more stable to walk. But when you go to do a turn, you just got more fin. You know, you're trying to make the fin go through the water sideways almost. And also what happens is along the bottom of your board, you have what's called a boundary layer of turbulent water, okay? And as you go to turn, that turbulent water gets forced against the fin and up the fin a bit or down the fin. And so what the cutaway does is it enables a little bit of dirty water to escape under the fin. And also too, you're just reducing the area of the fin. So when you're pushing the fin sideways through the water, there's just less fin area that you're working against. And as well as that, it gets a little bit more flex in it. So it's a sort of a flexier fin, a bit more of a surfable fin, but still nose rideable and walkable because you've got the tip deep in the water. All right, so that's a little bit of a breakdown on the difference between the cutaway and the standard template. And then next, you will notice that we have these numbers here, right? 105, 94, 83, 74, 64. So those numbers are a rough guide for the rider weight, the user rider weight, okay? So as I said, a small person, they're going to use a small fin. A big guy, he's going to use a big fin. All right, so let's give you an example. You might have a person and they're 50 kilo, and if you get a person and they're 100 kilo, that 100 kilo person literally has to use a fin double the size. Now it turns out it doesn't quite work that way, because a lot of the times smaller crew, like these numbers are based exactly on fin area and then an estimated weight. But what I did find was that someone who was 64 kilo actually preferred to ride the 74 and so on. And at the small end of the scale, I found that kids, like young kids, teenage boys, teenage girls, they generally rode fins slightly bigger than their body weight because they're usually riding boards that are bigger with more tail area, more float, and they're stuck on top of the water and they're sliding around a bit more. So they kind of need a bigger fin. But in general, the weight or the number on the fin is roughly what size fin you would use. So for me, I mean, I started out with the 105s, but unfortunately I'm a lot heavier than that now. So even these fins have got a little small for me, to be honest. Now if I'm in really big surf, like I mean giant tombstones or Nalu, big barreling waves, maybe even a pipeline wave, I can literally ride a smaller fin. It's a little bit like a fighter jet aircraft or something. The faster they go, the smaller the wings get. The slower you go, the bigger the wings have to be, because you're wanting the fin to generate lift or generate force at lower speeds, all right? So the numbers act as a guide, and there'll be different size fins for different size riders, basically. Okay guys, so that's a bit of the rundown on the basic fins that we have. Our longboard fins, 5 to 10, 5 sizes of shortboard fins, and as I said, a pretty much generic template for now. Now the thing with fins is we've got other fins as well, and we're going to be making a lot more fin videos. And so if you've got any questions, you know, about fins, composite materials, fin construction, flex, tip flex, foil, you know, more vertical, more raked, more tip area, whatever those questions might be, throw us those questions and we'll see if we can sort of incorporate them into future videos. So, okay guys, I hope you like that one. Fin vid. Cool.